It's Four Nations Week, baby, and fantasy hockey might be on hold, but we're pushing forward with all the takes from the hockey world that you need to keep building this winter on the latest edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. We're talking about all the injury updates to the big name players that you need to know. Sid, Doughty, Quinn, Hughes, and more. Let's tap in and get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back inside the lab, hockey heads, fantasy degenerates, and of course, all of our gambling family out there. It's the Monday edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, and I am lucky to be joined by my distinguished co-host, Mr. Steele Roden. On this side of the microphone, you guys know what it is. It's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone, here, holding it down for the everydayers who we see and appreciate for making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Get it going with FanDuel, where new customers right now get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 wager wins. It was a big weekend, Steele. We don't know the outcome of this Super Bowl. We'll say it now. Go Birds. Nobody wants to see the Chiefs win. We got the Green Gang going on today's episode. But I'm fired up. Four Nations. There's lots going on in the hockey world, even though the fantasy game is on pause for a little while here. You and I this week will still be breaking down angles coming out of the tournament, coming out of the NHL, injury updates, including today's episode. Sidney Crosby, Quinn Hughes, Drew Doughty. I got a best bet that I want to run by you for this tournament. I don't know how you're feeling about Sid overall. Let's talk about it. But if this man's not in the tournament, Steele, for Canada, this is, and you know how I feel about 87 bets and otherwise, this is really going to hurt Canada, number one. But fantasy owners who know Sidney Crosby's been bringing it still, even this season, this is a tricky little situation to maneuver. What are you thinking? What are you seeing from, number one, Crosby on the Pens? And what are you thinking about this Canada situation for the tourney?
Look, he doesn't have any faults by any means. And this Pittsburgh Penguins team is still in the hunt for a playoff spot. He's doing everything he possibly can. They got a big win over the Rangers the other night, which helped them in this instance. Yeah. A loss to follow it up before going into the break for Four Nations face-off. Sidney Crosby is just, a talented player. I mean, there's nothing really else to describe him as being one of the best hockey players that we've ever seen. So the fact that they're at this point, they're still in a playoff spot when I thought they were going to be long gone, it just speaks to what he's capable of doing, his willpower, his determination. Four Nations face-off wise, if this is a serious injury and he can't play, it couldn't happen at a better time. They're going to have a week,
True.
8-9 days off, from the NHL regular season. He's going to have time to rest up and rehab this injury and try to work on it. I'm not exactly sure what happened. It seems to be a rib or an elbow situation injury. They do have Mark Scheifele on standby if Sidney Crosby can't participate in the Four Nations. And what a great player to have on standby, ready to go. Mark Scheifele, 31 goals, 32 assists for 63 points in 56 games this season. He's been a fantastic, probably, I can't say their best player on the Jets because Connor Hellebuck is that best player, but Mark Scheifele is their best forward right now. And that's speaking a lot because they have Kyle Connor as well. This Canadian team is a force to be reckoned with. They've chosen this team with skill, but also guys who can change their roles and play in the bottom six and be grinders. You have Sam Bennett, you have Anthony Cirelli, Brandon Hagel, who's been a greatly improved player over the last couple of seasons with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then you have Nathan McKinnon, Mitch Marner, Connor McDavid, Braden Point, all these players as well. So I think if Sidney Crosby does miss Four Nations, fantasy-wise, it's probably for the best for any fantasy GM's owner that have him out there.
I agree.
And you have a great player on standby ready to fill that role.
58 points in 55 games for Sid. He has gone quiet over the last 4 to 6 weeks at times, stretches where, he hasn't shot the puck a ton. Shots on net this season, 156 Steele compared to last year. That's down 278 shots on net last year. I think this is just a classic case of, and this is where both fantasy and for Canada, it hurts the most for the peripheral pieces around him. By the way, Kevin Hayes taking that top line center spot for Pittsburgh over the last couple of games. And when they come back from the break, if Sid isn't ready to go, the Pens have the Caps, Rangers, Flyers, and Flyers on a back-to-back for their first 4 games. Bit of a mixed bag there, but I actually don't hate it for Pittsburgh's ability to perhaps put up some points. So might be a little bit of value in Kevin Hayes playing with Beauvillier and Ricard Raquel on that top line if you're looking for a deep cut. In terms of Canada, Sid's at his best, Steele, and you know I've said this a ton, when he's creating, when he's developing the play, creating chances for his teammates with his positional, sound body work with the puck. He is one of the hardest players I've ever seen to get off the puck, ever, and that part will be missed for Canada. You alluded to Kyle Connor. You alluded to the Americans. You're really going to like my bet for this Four Nations Cup that we're talking about at the end of the episode. But I just want to leave it at this with Sid because I've gushed on him over and over and over and over and over again. I don't know why I would do that, Steele. 3-time Cup winner, 2-time 3-time Pearson, 2 Rocket Richards, 2 Conn Smythes, 2 Hearts. Don't know why I would do that with this player, but I'll leave it at this. If he misses the Nations Cup, you're a fantasy GM, you're feeling real good about it. If he makes it in, you're a Canada fan, you're feeling real good about it. That's the take, though, because he is that good. And at 58 points in 55 games, you and I are going to talk about it. Let's talk about a couple of more injuries right around the break. We'll talk about big-time Four Nations bets. We'll get the week. Steele and I will also be breaking down some top 10s, some angles from the tournament, any injury updates. Keep it tapped right here. Short and sweet episodes all week long, baby, Monday through Friday. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. When the game tips off, NBA action's getting started. No better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. When you place live bets throughout the game, you even miss the opening tip or want to bet on the fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action with FanDuel. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, combine those bets into a same-game parlay, baby. You know, Steele and I love those same-game parlays. We'll have some picks for the tournament as well, all coming in on FanDuel, where new customers get $150 back in bonus bets if your first $5 wager wins. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. FanDuel.com today to get started with $150 back in bonus bets if your first $5 hit. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to hit that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Flip it. I appreciate all that love and support we have been receiving on the show, on YouTube, on X. The comments are popping off. Thank you so much. The Casual and Competitive League are getting down to the wire right now. All teams are battling it out. It's getting to the nitty gritty. That's what we love. That's why we love this fantasy hockey community that we've built over here on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. So thank you so much for all of that. Before we continue on the Four Nations face-off, though, I do want to talk about real quickly Matthew Barzal, him having knee surgery, out 4 to 6 weeks as well. His roster ability right now, he's down at 62%. He's down 11% in the last week. He will be out for at least the next 4 to 6 weeks after having knee surgery. Also, at the same time, I don't know if you saw this, and I don't know how true it is, but I think it would be interesting to talk about. Noah Dobson might be available for trade as well from the New York Islanders. Noah Dobson, Brock Nelson, Kyle Palmieri. It seems like the Islanders are going to be sellers, and if that is true, there are going to be a lot of teams after Noah Dobson before the playoffs come.
That is a spicy little take right there, Steele, because you know what? I could see it. And I really do feel that this New York Islanders club, and this is hard to say considering how much we like Noah Dobson, even though the injuries and the slow season, whatever, they need to clean house. They need to reset. They did it behind the bench with Patty Waugh. They got their goaltenders locked down. Other than that, freshen this bad boy up, and I think it actually needs to start up in the front office. I think Lou Lamoriello, all credit due.
Yes.
Legend, It's 2025, Lou. Let the guys grow a beard in their hair if they want to. Let the kids play. It's a young man's game, and lose in touch. So the fact that Dobson might be available, if I'm a hockey GM and I'm out there, I'm picking up the phone every single hour calling about what it takes to get Noah Dobson, because I think, Steele, also fantasy-wise, I'm keeping my finger on the button on this one, because if it even gets a little more serious that Dobson's moving, I'm getting him. Because if this kid goes to any other situation with any other team that's even slightly more offensively inclined, this guy's fantasy value goes way through the roof. So I love this. It fires me up. I'm going to double circle Noah Dobson. Any news alerts, I'm setting a Google alert for this. I hear anything about Noah Dobson, I'm going to go get a piece. But I absolutely makes sense to me. So even though he's been disappointing fantasy-wise this season, I could definitely see it.
And that would be very surprising to see. But like you said, quite the possibility. Clean house in the front office, Lamoriello.
Which is interesting because of how good they've been lately, too.
Yeah, it is interesting. They've lost their last 2 games, but they're only 5 points back of a wild card spot. This Eastern Conference race is insane. You know, I kind of want to say the Buffalo Sabres are somewhat in it as well. They're 12 points back, but yeah, you get down to the second last place team, Philadelphia Flyers. They're 6 points back of a wild card spot right now. So it is going to come to the last game of the season. Let's get over to Four Nations, though. A couple of changes, possible changes as well. Alex Pietrangelo is out. Drew Doughty is in the lineup. This honestly doesn't make a ton of sense for me. Not that it's Drew Doughty being the one replacing him, but I just don't understand. If Alex Pietrangelo has been saying he's injured, you know, he wants the week to rest off, why is he still playing for the Vegas Golden Knights right now? He's played every single game ever since this story has come out. He's gone pointless in his last 5. He seems to be, I mean, I don't even know what's going on with this player injury-wise and how serious it is, but if it's serious enough for you to not play in Four Nations, it should be serious enough for you to take the last couple of games before the break off at least. So I don't understand that position, but Drew Doughty, he comes back. He's played 6 games so far. First couple of games, really tough to make his debut in the season against the Florida Panthers and Tampa Bay Lightning. He starts -4 in those first 2 games, only has 1 assist in his first 6, but Jesus, he is playing some heavy minutes. Over 27 minutes, 29 minutes, 31 minutes last night against the Anaheim Ducks. It is absolutely insane. He hasn't lost a step. He's still skating out there. Offensive production wise, we know that he's he's not what he once was back in his prime, but 1 assist in 6 games, 7 hits, 9 blocks, 11 shots on net. He's a shutdown defender. This is great news for Team Canada as well. It just bolsters their blue line up a little bit more in replacement of Alex Pietrangelo. And this is a very good defensive group. Drew Doughty, Cale Makar, Josh Morrissey, Colton Parayko, Travis Sanheim, my boy Shea Theodore, and Devin Taves. So a great group of guys for Team Canada, and it's going to be a lot of fun watching them play.
Wednesday night, Canada, Sweden, 8 o'clock. Thursday night, United States, Finland. We'll have bets. We'll have previews. Anything that goes down in the tournament that affects your fantasy team, we'll have it here covered. We're trying to cover some of these angles going into it, and obviously, Drew Doughty's one of them. Very intriguing what you were saying about Pietrangelo. That smells a little weird for me, so much like
it's Vegas-like.
Yeah, keep an eye on it. You got to keep my eye on it like Dobson. But Drew Doughty, I'll leave it at this. By the way, I never told you this. I went to a kegger once with Drew Doughty. This guy's an all-around beautician. He was a Guelph Storm. I went to the U of G in my undergrad, and he was just an absolute stud for the Guelph Storm. I believe he had a huge year that year for the World Junior team. He's just been an all-around gamer. That's what I think I like about this ad the most is this guy's going to leave it all out there on the ice. You want him in there in clutch minutes, and I'll somewhat disagree with you about the offense. Yeah, he's not the same as those days where he's putting up the 50 plus, 60 plus points, but back-to-back seasons with 50, pretty good over the last couple of years. However, you're adding him for what he brings on the defensive end, what he brings in that room. Fantasy-wise, though, I think after this little work in with all these up in minutes in the Four Nations, I think he's still going to be pretty good down the stretch. That's my feeling. The Kings are also a team that I think are going to be in the mix very much so for making a little bit of noise in the playoffs. We'll see. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Let's talk about it very quickly, though. Quinn Hughes and the Americans, the next little segment and a half here, we're going to focus on this American deal because this is my team, my favorite team to win the tournament. And I know that they're slight favorites over Canada. Vegas has them up. Let me pull it up. I'll get ahead of myself a little bit anyway, just because I have it here. USA plus 145 to win. Canada plus 155. Plus 430 for the Swedes. And Juicy plus 950 for the Finns. I think this is USA's tournament to lose, Steele. Everybody's spoken about the goaltending, but I think it's just the whole team. However, Quinn Hughes, which is what we're going to talk about here, let me pull this up. Quinn Hughes' status for this tournament is very much in doubt. And I don't know if you've read these quotes from Rick Tocchet talking about his number one blue liner. Quinn Hughes has missed the last number of games. I think it's here. Sorry, man. I'm struggling with
the last 3 games.
3 games for Quinn Hughes. I don't think that they'll be rushing this player to play in any sense of the imagination. Vancouver's played pretty well over the last little while. They're lurking for a playoff spot. I have concerns over my confidence, though, in this team. If they lose Quinn Hughes, I don't know. I don't know what you think about this. This is absolutely massive. I know they got Zach Werenski back there, but Quinn Hughes, this is a huge loss for the Americans if he's not able to run that blue line and the power play.
I'm not exactly sure who they would replace Quinn Hughes with if he wasn't going to play in Four Nations face-off. He's missed the last 3 games with an oblique injury. Again, I don't think, if it's that serious, I don't think they're going to let him play in the Four Nations face-off. They're going to rest him over the next week, make sure he's ready to go after February 22nd when the regular season resumes. I think for me, it really comes down to the goaltending. And I actually really like all 4 of these teams. I think the Finland team is going to be a dark horse here, obviously, plus 950, the least favorites to win. They've got some great players, Sebastian Aho, Mikko Rantanen, Alexander Barkov, Arturi Lehkonen. Defensive group is not so great, but they've got Kevin Lankinen, who's been great so far in Vancouver, UPL, who I think can shine bright, and then UC Saros, who we know can turn it on a dime when he really needs to. So a lot of great teams out here. I would tend to agree with you. I think it will be Team USA that actually comes out with the win. And it's, that's tough for me to say. It's very close in the odds right now between USA and Canada, but they just have the better goaltending. And it just comes down to that for me. Connor Hellebuck, Jake Ottinger, Jeremy Swayman over guys like Aiden Hill, Sam Montembeault, and Jordan Binnington, who have been very inconsistent with their games in the blue paint this season for their respective clubs. So as much as it pains me to go with the United States team to win this, I'm going with the U.S. team because of all the firepower they have up front on the blue line and that brick wall they have in Cage and Connor Hellebuck.
Quinn Hughes tied with Zach Werenski for most points by a D-man on Team USA, 59 points, a beast fantasy season once again for Quinn Hughes. Just a very, very good player. And when you're talking about offensive-minded defensemen who just really are the key to that team's offensive success, Quinn Hughes has got to be the most important blue liner in the NHL. I'm not saying best fantasy piece, but the team's success in Vancouver so much rides on this guy's play that I think this is going to be a very huge loss for a blue line in the Four Nations Cup for the Americans. It's got Brock Faber, Adam Fox, Noah Hannafin, Charlie McAvoy, Jacob Slavin, and Zach Werenski. So, yeah, some good players there. Adam Fox, I'd probably tip the hand to with Werenski along with that, filling that offensive load. But the Charlie McAvoys and Noah Hannafins of the world aren't going to exactly be quarterbacking any power plays like Mr. Werenski or our boy. I'm struggling so hard with his name, and I've been
Brock
talking
Faber?
about it for and Quinn Hughes. Here we go. I need to get to break because I got to spit out this best bet for the Four Nations deal. I just need the puck to drop. We'll take a little break from the fantasy game, but we will be back red hot for all the playoff coverage that you need. If your team's in the playoffs, it's time to get real serious.
Four Nations face-off starting this week. We cannot wait. Being played in Montreal and Boston. We're going to come back after the break with our best bets for the Four Nation face-off. This episode is brought to you by Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites. I've been in that spot where you need the right hire like yesterday. The pressure's on, and every day without the right person is a setback. That's exactly when Indeed sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review, share with your friends and family out there. Thank you so much for all the love and support. It really does mean the world to Flip and I.
It's a fact.
We could not be doing this without all of our listeners out there. So thank you so much for all of that. 4 nations face off, Flip. Team USA, Team Canada, Team Finland, and Team Sweden going head to head to head to head. You got the 4 baddest players in the league right now. And, you got teammates playing against each other. You got teammates playing with each other. And this is just going to be a great week for hockey. A needed break for a lot of players out there, but we get to see the best of the best play against the best of the best.
It's a treat, and there's so many different ways to look at it in terms of the excitement. But there is going to be situations that will impact your fantasy team. You're almost kind of white-knuckling it through these next few days, Steele. If you're a GM, that's got the Kyle Connors, Austin Matthews of the world, and obviously the top pieces on every single team. Almost every single player on these rosters are fantasy relevant, actually very fantasy relevant because of how good they are. So if you're a GM that's in the playoffs right now and your big guns aren't putting up points for your team, they're out there playing in a tournament, and they go down, Steele, or something really bad happens with confidence, they play really poorly, this could derail what's been a really good season for you fantasy-wise. So again, finger on the pulse, make sure you know what's good, tap into the pod, we'll give you everything you need. Kyle Connor, that's who I'm looking at, Steele. That's the bet, no more teasing. Kyle Connor, tournament MVP, plus 2,500. Let me explain. 30 goals, 39 assists, 69 points, 56 games. I think I've thrown this out there before about underrated players. I'll say this. I think Kyle Connor might be the most underrated shooter in the NHL. This guy is absolutely lethal. 6-game winning goals this year, 177 shots on net. I don't know who he's going to play with, but this will be more talent than he's ever played with before. And no disrespect to Mark Scheifele, Gabe Vilardi, Ehlers, and other guys that he's played with over the last couple of years in Winnipeg. I'm excited to see what this means for a guy in Connor who give that guy the puck and just let him shoot. Such a good sneaky release. And at plus 2,500 Steele, this American team is out for blood. They've heard it all about Canada, right? We've heard it all. Canada's the juggernaut. This program has been getting better and better and better. And now they're anchored by an absolute cerebral nutcase in Connor Hellebuck in the cage. This might give the Americans all they need to do their thing. So I would say Americans at plus 145 is my first best bet. Kyle Connor, plus 2,500 for tournament MVP Steele. Let me just see, $10 here. $10 pays you out $250. I might slap that up to 25 and collect a little bit of loot here. I like Kyle Connor in this tournament big time at plus 2,500.
That is a very great pick with a juicy odd right there. For
Thank
me, again, we got to go with United States MVPs because we think they're going to win this Four Nations face-off tournament. Exactly. I've got 2 picks, and they come just above Kyle Connor. Number 1, it's Connor Hellebuck, his teammate. I think, again, if it comes down to it, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. He's going to be shut down in the blue paint. You're going up against Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby potentially, Barkov, Rantanen. This is by far the best goaltender in the National Hockey League. He's by far the best goaltender in the Four Nations face-off. So Connor Hellebuck at plus 1,500. I really like that odd. But honestly, the one I like a lot more, and you get a better odd right now, I like Jack Eichel at plus 2,000.
I knew you were going to say Eichel.
I think this guy has not been spoken enough from our perspective, but just overall in the National Hockey League. He gets traded to Vegas, all the drama in Buffalo. He wins a Stanley Cup. Over the last couple of years, he hasn't been on the radar. He's been quiet, but he's been doing his thing quietly, and that's what I love about him. He's been injured over the last couple of seasons. He hasn't played a full regular season pretty much since he was a rookie in the league, 81 games, which was his most. He's been healthy all year long, 69 points in 55 games,
really
50
good season.
assists, 19 goals. Shooting at 10.9 shooting percentage, 174 shots on net. He's on pace to break 100+ points. He's on pace for 102 right now. He's quietly just doing his thing in Vegas. There's no need for all the cameras, all the spotlight. He's just playing his hockey game, playing his style, and succeeding at a high level right now. Jack Eichel at plus 2,000. I absolutely love it.
The fact that he's tied for 6th in the NHL in point steal, and we haven't really spoken about him a lot. Maybe we really should.
I know.
Because also take in terms of this bet that you're talking about, like clutch situations, big time moments, tough hockey. How about 34 points in 29 postseason games in his career for Jack Eichel? So this guy is not only good in the regular season, he's clutch when it matters. So that might actually, you know what? I'm splitting that 20 bet. Kyle Connor 10, Jack Eichel 10. Thank you very much, but I'm really liking these angles here because if the Americans do win, it's going to be one of those players that we just touched on. Hellebuck, Eichel, my boy Kyle Connor, most def. So I like this a lot. I need the puck to drop. I need to see some hockey so we have some things to talk about. We'll break down some top 10 lists, some fantasy focused top 10 lists over the next couple of days. And then when the puck drops on this tourney, we'll have it all covered for y'all. And then back, waiver wires, all the targets you need, whatever it is, we got you covered.
To enjoy the nice breakout here, because once we come back, fantasy hockey is coming back full steam ahead with playoffs corner. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. For your second listen, make sure you go check out the Locked On NHL podcast, where the season never ends. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. From both Flip and I, we wish you good luck with your bets over the next week, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.